Welcome to my YouTube channel. My guest on Facing the Canon is J.John, my wife. I am absolutely delighted to welcome Mrs. J.John to Facing the Canon.
Well, I know it's traditional to say thank you for having me on the show, but I always find it's a bit unusual for the guests to say that because they don't know what you're going to say or how you're going to say it. So I'll say thank you at the end.
Well, thank you, Killy. And we haven't prepped any questions,
No.
But we have been married for 39 years this year.
Yes, we have. 1983 was when we got married.
Well, let's start with your grandparents. Your grandparents were Christians, believers, serving the Lord. Tell us about your grandparents.
Yeah, so on my mum's side, my grandmother was converted under W.P. Nicholson in Bangor, Northern Ireland.
And he was an evangelist?
He was an evangelist, yes, he was. And she became a missionary, actually, in the 1930s to Burma, which is now known as Myanmar. And that was where she met my grandfather while she was out there. And then they came back and he became a minister, pastor of a church. So. Yeah.
And what about your paternal grandparents?
So on my father's side, my grandfather and great uncle were both evangelists, and they were Tom Rees and Dick Rees. And they were evangelists, and they just told the good news. And my great uncle, Tom Rees, actually after the Second World War was very influential in the Albert Hall being filled, Earl's Court, all sorts of places to preach the gospel. So it's quite a generation, actually. And then my father actually was also a minister.
And he was a minister in Cambridge, at Holy Trinity, Cambridge.
That's right. That's right. That's where we were married, at Holy Trinity, Cambridge. And
he became the head of the church army.
Yes, he did. After Cambridge, he became head of the church army, which is sort of the evangelistic wing of the Church of England.
So generations of Christians, missionaries, evangelists, and you're brought up as a Christian. But then in your student years, you wavered. Tell us about that time.
Yes, I mean, actually, one of the things that I did do was I vowed I'd never marry a minister or anything like that. So that's perhaps for another time, another story. But yes, so I was brought up as a Christian in a loving Christian home. But I was very good at RE because my father was a vicar. So that meant I took it all the way to A-level. And of course, then the Bible became more of a textbook than an actual book to read for transformation. And so I think probably when I was about that sort of age, 16, 17, my faith became sort of head knowledge rather than heart knowledge. And I did have a few years of wandering around.
Yeah,
pretty unhappy, to be honest.
Wandering around in the wilderness.
Wandering around in the wilderness, well, at Cheltenham.
When you were at college,
yeah.
Okay, and you were at that time studying, training in what?
I studied in hotel management, so I was doing a course in hotel management. So.
But then tell us, one summer, you're in Cambridge, you're running a coffee shop, and a mission takes place. Tell us about that.
Shall I tell? Okay, yes. So basically, my father, who loved me very much and thought I could do anything, I was home from college and he said, why don't you just set up a coffee shop? Because obviously I was doing hotel management. So I thought, well, actually not a bad idea. So it was right in the city centre. So a friend and I set up a coffee shop, and Margaret, and we had to share the premises with the overseas mission that was going on. So overseas students flocked to Cambridge to learn English, and so the churches all got together and they would reach out to them basically with a lunch bar and a coffee place in the evening. And so I had to hand the keys over. And the first thing was, I thought, I can't believe it. This is students my age who give up their summer holidays to come and tell people about Jesus. And I think that was the first thing that really spoke to me, that these people, that students would do this. And then the second thing was, I got chatting to the leader of the team, and we had some very interesting conversations about life and the path you're on and where you're going, which of course I knew because I'd had that Christian heritage. I knew a lot of it, and I was very dismissive. And he kept inviting me, saying, would you like to come and, come to one of the evening things? And I kept saying, no, but he was very persistent. And so I ended up, in fact, I'd go home, bake cakes and all that sort of thing, iron the tablecloth, and then sit down with my mum and watch a bit of TV. But that night I said, Mum, I'm going to go to this meeting. And I literally just went to this coffee bar that was happening in the evening. And everything spoke to me. It was like, now I know it was the Holy Spirit, but it was like the drama was like my life being laid out before me. And so it was amazing, really. And I was the first person to go forward. And then I always say that the leader followed me up because it was you.
I was privileged to help you rediscover the wonder of God's grace.
That's right.
Yes, I did follow you up. I wrote you epistles,
yes,
letters to encourage you as you went back to college.
It was pre-mobile phones, so so we had lots of letters and phone calls in the phone box. So no.
But I think with you, Killy, I think it was, to use an analogy, it was a bit like this brand new radio that's fantastic, but wasn't plugged in. And when you got plugged in that summer, it's like your entire upbringing and heritage all kicked in. The prayers of your grandmother, and all of that just kicked in.
Definitely. And I think as well, because I'd grown up, I know it sounds ridiculous sometimes to say this, I'd grown up in Sunday school. I think the one time I said I don't want to go, my mum said, well, you have to be ill then, and made me stay in bed in the vicarage. And so I'd sort of grown up in that kind of life, and I knew how important it was to pray, how important it was to read your Bible. And I sort of had the tools to do that, but I'd sort of shelved it. So definitely. It was like the radio being plugged in. So
Well, we became friends.
Yes,
and
did.
I followed you up, and then we started dating, we were engaged, and then we got married. But I was traveling extensively. And in those early years, how did you find it with me being away so much?
Interesting question. So when we first got married, I was working full time, running a coffee shop, setting up and running a coffee shop in Nottingham Library. And so it was busy. And I think when you had time to be at home, I was at work, and you were and then in the evenings you'd be going out to work and weekends and things. So it was a difficult, I have to say, if I'm honest, it was a difficult time. And I think we we rowed a lot. Let's put it that way.
Well, we say that we've been married 39 years and we've had 38 happy ones. That first year, it's adjusting, isn't it?
It is adjusting.
Because I often say, at Christmas, when you bring a Christmas tree into your house, you have to rearrange the furniture. But when you bring another person into your life, you've got to rearrange a lot more.
Yeah.
And you don't always know how to do that.
No, and I think as well, I was young, I was very independent. I sort of lived away from home for years and years and things like that. And, well, not years and years, but a good few years. And so I think you suddenly realise when you move in, when you marry and move into a flat together, you realise actually I've got some rough edges that need smoothing out. And so I mean I hope it's all right to share these, but the low moments were probably throwing the salad servers at you,
Yes,
and the storming out, going, I'm leaving.
yes.
but
then you came back.
I came back because I had nowhere to go. so interesting times.
Interesting times, but we did adjust, and the thing about marriage is complementing each other, isn't it? And it's give and take. So we look back now, having been married this year 39 years, and
I know.
You're my best friend.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. You're my best friend too.
But we saw some incredible things as we travelled around. We went to Australia together in 1985 for 2.5 months.
Can I say that was funny, because I was so like, this is my first international trip. This is like major. So I went to Marks and Spencer's and got this lovely outfit. It was linen. And I thought, I've got to arrive looking really good. Well, this linen outfit and the shoes I had on was so uncomfortable. And I arrived there, I just couldn't comprehend how far Australia was on the plane. I just couldn't. And I arrived, and I looked like I'd been through the spin dryer. Everything was just creased. I was like, I kind of like, oh dear, it was just awful. Anyway, awful.
But
my shoes didn't fit. It was terrible.
We were there for 2.5 months ministering, and we look back and grateful to God.
Oh, so grateful. I mean, amazing opportunities, really.
And Canada and many, many other countries that we've ministered together.
Yeah.
And particularly these last 10 years, we've been travelling together
a lot more,
everywhere we go throughout the UK and around the world.
Yes.
And you like travelling.
I do like travelling. I really like travelling. I think I like meeting people, and I like seeing new places. So so I've certainly been able to do that. And also just to say, to see the bigger picture of what God's doing around the world is always so encouraging. I mean, even back in the 80s when we went to Australia, it was a lady who'd heard you in Nottingham and had been really touched, and she was Australian. And she said, I'm going to set up these meetings for you. And, you just think people like that who stepped out and, and invited us to go. It was incredible.
That's so true. That so initial invitation was from a housewife.
Yeah. No, she was amazing.
She
Wendy,
was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wendy.
Yeah.
Well, bless Wendy, whatever she's doing now. And
we're friends on Facebook.
But it is amazing how a housewife can open a door that then opens up so many other doors.
Know.
I mean, we've been back 23 times to Australia.
Yeah, no,
and
it's interesting.
That's just one amongst many countries.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
true.
The children arrived.
They certainly did.
So tell us about that.
So with our first child, we thought I could still travel. I could still go with you. And so we did actually do another Australia trip, which was a whole different experience with a toddler. And I came back from there, and I remember we were at St Nick's in Nottingham at that time, and David Huggett said, oh, you've got to stand up and say how amazing the trip was and what you saw and everything. And I mean, we did. We saw amazing things. But I stood up and I said, I'm never going back. It was awful. but
it was hard work.
It wasn't that
with
bad.
A toddler. No, but with a toddler on the road. Again, I think we were there for 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And it was a challenge.
It was a challenge with a young child and different people's homes and things, and So.
But every week I write an article called Heroes of the Faith, and one of the things is exploring these heroes, just being reminded of how many of them truly went the extra mile with their families
I know.
Left families,
or even saw their families all die while they were out in these places. I know. It has been amazing, actually, because I've sort of read them for the podcast, and I have to say, I mean, sometimes I've even cried reading them, because it's just so moving to hear what people did sacrifice, and we forget there was no email, mobile phones, fax machines.
There was
nothing. There was nothing. I mean, even the phone line probably didn't work that well, and I mean, just incredible what people accomplished and did. Yeah, no, and actually it's a privilege to read them and to learn so much about so many different people, really. Yeah.
I know you feel, particularly when you're in ministry, you feel like all eyes are upon you.
Yeah.
And you feel like people are judging you for not being a good mother or a wife or whatever.
I definitely.
But it's not true,
It's not true. And I definitely, to my younger self, as they say, I would definitely say, it really, really doesn't matter. And I think as well to just encourage young mums and things that it's a season. Enjoy the season. It does go by very quickly, and they say about a village raising children. I don't know who said that, but it is true. The church family, it's really important, and I loved the sort of toddler groups and creche and things like that. I used to hate it that my children always cried when I left them in creche. And I remember one older woman saying to me, she said, well, look, you wouldn't want them just to go running off, that they didn't miss you. And I thought, I think I would, but I understood the sentiment that actually they love you, but they do get used to it. So don't sort of feel that that's a reason not to go to church because your kid cries in the group. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, any advice, any tips on raising children without raising your blood pressure, Killy? What comes to mind?
Any tips?
Yes.
Pray a lot.
And prayer is vital.
We joke, but prayer is vital.
And in fact, we prayed over our boys' pillows many times.
Many times.
Just praying as they laid their heads that they would be at peace and rest.
Yes, and I think prayer is crucial, because keep your communication and your relationship with Jesus is really important. And then my other thing is, I'd say always bite-sized Bible. So, now it's so fortunate that there's apps with devotionals on and things like that. And just really get something that works for you. So whether it's first thing in the morning or it's while the babies are having their nap or something, just take even 5-10 minutes just to have a verse and a little thought and just to pray. I think that's really important. And just don't stress the small stuff. Don't stress, my kid's got a runny nose. Before children, you always think, oh, my child will never go around with a snotty nose. But, it's all like, and they're screaming when you're wiping their nose. Don't stress about it. They don't have to be perfectly dressed and perfectly turned out and all this. It's, you want them to be relaxed. You want your children relaxed and enjoying life. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we all make mistakes, don't we?
We certainly do.
And there is grace, and the Lord encourages us, empathizes with us, strengthens us.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your own devotional life. What's the rhythm of that for you?
Well, we do quite a bit together, which is really good, and I love that. So we sort of, first thing in the morning, pray together, and last thing at night, pray together. But I always think it's really important to have your own sort of spiritual time, your own time with the Lord. And so I'd say I'm not brilliant in having the same time every day, but I do make time just to pray and to read the Word. And we've been doing that together, the 30-day shred, I think it's called, or something, which was meant to be read the whole Bible in 30 days, which I actually think if anyone has done it, message me and tell me, because I just think it's almost impossible. So we're on to the third month of the 30-day shred. But it's
our-
great. I love
But
it.
our
I love
attitude
it.
is aim for 30 days, and if you do it in 60,
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah.
Rather than not do it.
I know, that's
Yeah.
it. But also, I love to have my own time. So, studying the Bible and looking at the Bible, and I try to do that most days, and just to get some nuggets and thoughts. And I love it. And every now and again, I do the staff prayers, and I love actually just preparing for that and doing a little something for that. So yeah.
So as you look back over your life since you became passionate in following Jesus, and of course we've been married 39 years and ministering together, what are some of the highlights as you look back, Killy, for you? What are the memorable moments that come to mind?
I think possibly the Emirates Stadium is one of the most memorable moments. So for those who don't know, we booked the Emirates Stadium.
Which is a big football stadium.
Can I just say, huge leap of faith. And that's what I admire about you, is that you go for it. You'll sort of think, okay, the Lord's saying this, let's push the door and see what happens. And so we booked the Emirates Stadium, and somewhere, I don't know how it happened, but somewhere along the line, I ended up co-hosting. So there was our son Michael, there was you, and there was me. And I'm the one who was going, let's all sit down, have a little coffee, find out where we're going with get a script, basically, so I know where I'm going. And you and Michael were like, yeah, it'll be okay. Don't worry, chill.
Don't worry about it.
So we're now on the day of the Emirates Stadium. And I have to say, I can totally testify that the Lord took I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I don't think I messed up. I don't think I totally...
You didn't. No, I think the thing is, it's getting that balance between prayerfully preparing and not necessarily being scripted word for word, but knowing roughly.
Yeah.
And then also that encouragement that Jesus said, look, I will give you the words.
I'll give you the words. I know. It's so true. It's so true. So I think that probably was a highlight. And also, I think anywhere and everywhere we go, the one highlight for me is seeing people coming to Christ. Yes. There's nothing... You just can't beat it, can you? When you see people responding either as a recommitment, and I get a recommitment, I do. You sort of get diverted or distracted, and then I can testify to that, and then you come back, and people coming to the Lord for the first time. That constantly makes me well up, and so I love all that. So that's been a highlight.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And currently you and I are on the road every week for 10 weekends, and we're just going to local churches, preaching the gospel, and we're seeing people come to Christ. Yeah. And what we've noticed recently, Killy, is the number of people who are just weeping. They're just weeping when they come to Christ.
Well, I know. Well, it's when you come to Christ, it's just like a new beginning, isn't it? It's like a fresh start. I mean, I still think back to when what was it? Not the Henry Martin Hall, it was the other place. But anyway, when I went in Cambridge, when I came to Christ,
it was like St. Barnabas Church.
St. Barnabas Church. It was like, it's just so overwhelmingly wonderful to know that everything is forgiven. You've got the new life today, and you can live life to its full. And so I think tears are a good thing. They're not a bad thing. Tears are very cathartic. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's also a sign of maybe a new wave of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And possibly a sign of revival. It's just something we've noticed, that more and more people are coming to Christ and weeping.
Yeah.
So hugely encouraging.
It is.
So the future. What are your hopes, aspirations, expectations? I'd love to know.
Can I just say again, I did not know these questions were coming up.
Absolutely.
So the future. Well, I love my grandchildren. So that's always
So do
lovely.
I.
It's lovely seeing them grow up.
Absolutely. What do they say about grandchildren? They're a gift from God for not killing
Your
their
own children. Yeah, well, that's probably true.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
find, Killy, I've got more patience and time with my grandchildren than I ever did with my children.
Well, can I say they don't live with us the
Yes.
whole time? So I think that helps, doesn't it? So, yeah, no, it's lovely. They're very special. Yes, the future. I'm not avoiding the question. I'm just giving myself time to think. Well, I'd imagine, I mean, we've sort of talked that while we can, we will travel.
Yes, while we're well and healthy, we'll keep preaching the gospel. But we can't see ourselves stopping.
No, I can't exactly see you retiring.
Oh, impossible. Well, the word retire is not in the Bible, is it? So we might have a gear shift and refired.
Yeah.
But we'll be ministering, preaching the gospel till the Lord takes us.
Yeah, and also I love that we also try and invest in other evangelists. So like the evangelist conference and things like that they're really special, and I hope that they will go forward in the future, and perhaps doing, smaller groups. Who knows, really. It's exciting because you don't always know exactly where you're going in the future with God. So
No.
He'll lead us, and He's faithful, isn't He?
But one of the things we've observed in the Gospels of Jesus is that He preached to 5,000 men and their families. So that's like 20,000. But He also went to Levi's home and He spoke to his ex-colleagues.
Yeah.
And He also stopped at a well and spoke to one woman. And we are grateful to God, aren't we, for those really huge, big opportunities. But we love also going to those homes, and we also love stopping at the well and speaking to one person, and that's always been
Definitely.
our rhythm and practice in life, and we're just going to keep continuing that.
Definitely, yeah, and it's amazing, really, because even with neighbours and things like that, it's lovely to just sort of keep those relationships ticking along, and because we've got some good friends in our neighbourhood. We've lived here for 25 years, so so it's good, actually, isn't it?
Well, it was lovely.
It
was lovely. Our neighbours, who I took the funerals for recently, used to call us the neighbours from heaven.
They did.
So that was sweet.
No, we'll miss them, but we're going to get new neighbours.
We'll get new neighbours.
Yeah, so it's all good.
All good. Killy, I love you. You're my best friend, partner in life, partner in ministry, and I'm so grateful to God for you. Thank you so much for joining me on Facing the Canon.
Well, thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this program. It feels like a special platinum edition with my wife, J.John. But thank you to Killy for sharing honestly and from her heart. I hope that's encouraged you and inspired you in your own journey of faith. Thank you so much for joining us on Facing the Canon. Please join us again.